Okay, so we've done task 1, which is P3. We're going to look at P4 and M1. We go back to the brief. So the brief here gives us a little bit of information. This is where you're going to present, and it says it needs to be insightful, so you engage your audience, but also you're informing your audience so that you demonstrate a sound understanding of what you're talking about, and that you're able to educate them on the information that you're about to present. So if we look at the bullet point 1, provide a detailed account of the different muscle types, consider how each of the muscle type functions, giving specific examples of their role within the body. Let's go back to my PowerPoint. Here we are, we've got each of the 3 muscle types. We've got skeletal muscle, smooth muscle and cardiac muscle. So we'd be expected to describe them, so what they are and their key functions, and how they're made up, some key information about them, so whether they've got X amount of nuclei, the way that they look in terms of whether they're striated or not striated, whether they're voluntary or not voluntary. All that key information enables you to hit the description, which is the P4 criteria. If you want to hit the M1 criteria, explain them. So explain their role within the body specifically, how they function, why they function like that, and what they do and why they're important within your body. Okay, so that's that slide there. If we go back to the brief, we'll look at the next bullet point, which is locate the antagonistic muscle pairs and give a detailed account of how they function within sporting movements. So let's go back to my PowerPoint here. And here we are, we've got some images, which is great. You don't have to lay yours out like this. You don't have to use these images. Let me just tell you what you are required to do. So the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to describe each of these here. So you're going to need to say what an agonist is, what an antagonist is, what a fixator is, and what a synergist is. And then you're going to need to apply them. So once you've described what they are, you're then going to need to apply them to a sporting example. Now, both me and my partner are going to need to demonstrate that we both have a sound understanding of how antagonistic muscle pairs work. So you need a minimum of 2 images, one for me to do and one for my partner to do, to demonstrate that we can apply antagonistic muscle pairs within the images that we've provided. So I might go here and say, right, okay, so this one is I know my bicep is an agonist, and my antagonist is so-and-so, and my synergist is here, and this is where my fixator is. And this is why they're really important within this muscle action, and this is how they work. And then on the downwards phase, they change over, and this is why they change over. Just demonstrating a sound understanding, explaining how they work in action. And that's effectively the pass and the merit for antagonistic muscle pairs, which is bullet point 2 on the assignment brief. We go back to the brief. We go to bullet point 3, provide a detailed account of the different muscular contractions and how they work. Give sport-specific examples of each contraction type. So let's go back to my PowerPoint. And here we are, we've got 2 images again, very similar to the image before. So again, you don't have to use these images, you use whatever image you want. So we're going to describe and explain the 3 different four different muscular contractions actually. So let's change that to 4, because you've got concentric, eccentric, isometric, and isokinetic. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to describe what concentric contraction is, what an eccentric contraction is, what an isometric contraction is, and what an isokinetic contraction is. Okay, so we're going to describe what they are, paint a picture in words of each of these ones, so our audience has an understanding of what they are. Then we're going to apply them, and what we do is we'll apply each contraction type to an image, and explain why it's that contraction and how that contraction works within that action. So you're going to apply each one, a concentric to an image, an eccentric to an image, an isometric to an image, and an isokinetic, and explain why they apply to those images and why they're relevant to that action that's taking place, or that contraction even that's taking place. Okay, we're going to go to our brief. I'm going to look at the last bullet point. So you are required to inform your audience on the different fiber type classifications and their key characteristics and functions. So if we go to the next slide, which is this one, what you're expected to do is describe type 1, type 2A, and type 2B muscle fibers and what they're made up of. And if you remember reading that document in class, it's also placed on Moodle. It tells you about the key characteristics of each muscle type. It tells you what color they are, their resistance to fatigue, whether they're aerobic or anaerobic, etc. Okay, so it gives you all that key information. You'd be expected to paint a picture in words for each fiber type, and then Then you need to say, well, this is why they work like this, using the key information, and also to provide relevance to a sporting example. So Paula Radcliffe is type 1, and this is why she's type 1, or predominantly type 1. And that kind of concludes the pass and merit criteria. So far, if you followed the first walkthrough guide, it hits P3. If you follow the second walkthrough guide, it hits P4 and M1. So you should be, if you've gone through it thoroughly, at a merit right now. And I will create a walkthrough guide for the distinction criteria for those guys and girls who are going for that.